I missed the meeting. I go racing into Catrice's office earlier, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I missed the meeting. And she goes, what meeting? I go, don't we have a meeting? Did we have a meeting at 2:15? No, it's at 4. Oh, then I guess I didn't miss it.
That's okay. Catrice has been over here fixing my camera, so she's the new Zach. She did amazing.
Yeah. I was thinking you just have a different computer, to be honest with you. Wow, Chris, you have a new job.
See?
All right. So back to topic: nonverbal communication. Correct? Is that what we're talking about?
What we're doing today: nonverbal communication and how it impacts our learning in the classroom. So, what are your thoughts about it?
I think the biggest thing is facial expressions. If you're really not, if you don't have a poker face, well, first of all, you can't play poker, but your students can tell you what you're thinking. Like, if they say something, let's say you're trying not to be judgmental, but they say something really stupid, and so then you have this look on your face like, really? But you're not saying really. It's on your face. That's nonverbal communication, right? So I think that's sometimes a challenge for myself and for anybody else probably too, is you don't want to really say what you're thinking. I mean, you want to say it, but you can't. So you try to, Catrice has a poker face. She would be great at cards. She does.
I agree.
I think that's part of the classroom management, and so I think that's part of it. I think also, if it's just your behaviors. If you're in class, ready to go with your lesson, and you start at whatever class time you're supposed to start at, and you greet everyone coming in, whether you're saying it verbally or not, you're just there, and you're so organized, I think that establishes the rapport and the communication for the day as well, because then they know they better be on time because you are. So I think that's a big one too. I don't know what else to say. JP, what do you? Huh? Is that okay? I'm just shooting from the hip here, but I was just trying to think of stuff that had nothing to do with verbal, and what you would do in the classroom and how it affects you or the students and the whole atmosphere. So now we got expert. JP, you're up.
Oh. No, I was just going to say I agree with you. I'm not saying that you always have to smile, but you should always smile when your students are, coming in the classroom, and just giving them that feel of welcomeness. Everybody enjoys to see somebody smile instead of frowning. Yep. So, and then I always tell my instructor, I don't care what you have going on in your life, you leave it at the door. You don't bring it in. You try not to have that emotion on your face. So, I had instructors that had that resting bee face, and the students would not come to them. They were afraid. And so it just made it so tense for the students because they would never smile and they were never welcoming for the students. So.
Good point.
All right, wait. What are your thoughts?
So nonverbal communication, that's something we actually have to hit on day one of their first day of cosmetology, due to the fact that there are mirrors and eyes everywhere in that building. So it's something that we always work on with our students, even if it's like they're blow drying the hair, just what their face looks like. Especially if they're blow drying a color and maybe the color is a little bit off. That like, oh no, like look,
oh my God.
Yeah, because watching their facial expressions as they're getting their new color blow dried, and so they're picking up on that and going off of what their student looks like when they're doing that. So that's something that we definitely hit with our students and our staff. One thing that I know that when we're doing like an intense class, like let's say it's cutting week, and they have 5 solid days of cutting. Usually by day 3, they are mentally and physically exhausted. And so we have to get them back on track. And one thing that we've found that has worked for us with like that nonverbal communication is sitting down and getting on their level when we have to address something like, hey guys, I know it's been, a really heavy 3 days with cutting and all the knowledge you're learning and skills. Instead of standing in the classroom and like pointing down at them, like, hey, you need to get back on track. Sometimes we just sit with them in front of the class so that like, hey, we understand, we've been there, we've done that. And we seem to get a better response from that than standing up and like pointing down at them when we have to have some of those conversations. There's, a time and place that you do have to have the stand-up conversations in front of the class, but I think we've been utilizing being able to sit on their level and they feel a little bit more open and connected to us, and they relax a little when we do have to have those conversations. So that's one thing that the educators really pick up on and make sure that, on those heavy class days, they just get down on their students' level to help, with the rest of the cutting class or whatever it may be, get them back on track.
I kind of want to bounce back. Have a question because I know that we were talking about potentially, not necessarily like, do we have to fake being happy? I don't know. You're saying you should smile. So if I'm not feeling happy for the day, is that why should I be forced to put on a face that is not genuine?
Well, I think it's because they're paying to be here. So yeah, we do need to fake being happy. Because again, if you're not, it makes it a tense situation. And I would rather somebody fake it than making my day miserable because they're miserable.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And it really can just set up the learning environment. If you're grumpy and not greeting them and like, well, find a seat, they're not going to retain as much information that day as they would.
Right.
And so we do have to fake it.
I also thought it was interesting that you said, kind of coming down to their level and being aware of how those verbal cues come off. So is that something like, how did you pick up on that, I guess? And like, maybe if any of you have like any other circumstances where, you kind of have to change your position, your posture, your face to better connect with your students, maybe share those stories.
So mine, I would say, is trial and error. I wasn't getting the response I wanted by, standing in front of the class and telling them what needs to happen and how they need to reset and refocus. So I was figuring out I wasn't getting the response I was looking for. And so I just kind of thought, like, what can we do differently to get a response? And, I would think back on my experience and, somebody standing above me, if I'm sitting down, it's hard. I don't respond very well to that in certain situations. And so I tried it out and it worked. And so it's something that I've shared with the educators. And I think if you like can't get them refocused on what we're supposed to be doing, and you've tried like, hey guys, let's refocus, let's regroup, and they're still chit-chatty, I think that's our cue, like, hey, now's the time we need to sit down and have this conversation.
So I have a question. Do you stay in front of the class and sit down, or do you go sit with them?
Stay in front and sit down. Sometimes we make a circle if it has to be. Depending on the situation, like if it's let's say our term 1 and it's week 5, they've been in a classroom together, a small space, and there's different personalities and it's just a class that isn't meshing well, we'll sit in a circle and I'll sit with them in that circle and we're going to have a conversation about that.
Any other stories that you guys want to share, or can I tag Louis in for his thoughts?
Louis will tag in for his thoughts
Cool.
before he forgets them because he's old. I've learned here at Intellitech that all eyes are on me. And I tell you what, it's taken a lot of getting used to. I'm still not totally comfortable with it. But one thing that I've learned, one thing I've learned that I have to do, and I won't say that I'm all that good at it, is my physical demeanor. Am I happy to be there? Am I happy with what I'm teaching? Um, am I comfortable in front of a crowd, and do I know what I'm talking about? I think those two are really important as well. You guys all have very valid points. Whitney, I move around the classroom, not every day, but frequently. I'll check on a student, even in the middle of lecture. Do you understand? Are you on the right page? Do you see what I'm talking about? And it makes a personal connection when you walk to or past that student and talk to them.
Mhm.
Out in the shop, again, all eyes are on me. Manually, do I know what I'm doing? Can I reach into a car and confidently perform a task that these students are going to watch and then understand and be able to replicate? If I'm nervous, if I don't know what I'm doing, it shows. There were several students I remember very clearly a long time ago, several years ago, like not too long after I'd started, and I didn't know the material really well as far as working through it. I mean, I know cars, but to work through the material. And I mean, they read me loud and clear. I mean, one guy blurts out right in the middle, "You're nervous, aren't you?" And I'm like, uh, I, I don't know. Well, that proved it right there. You know, but he and his friend busted me wide open. I was like, okay, well, how do I learn to hide this? Well, I have to know the material better. And every time they change it, I have to go through and read it ahead of time so that I know what I'm presenting. If I get, to page 2, and let's see, on page 2, now they know I'm reading the material, and then I present it. See, it's that pause, it's that nervousness that they read, and they see that you don't know what you're doing. And to me, that's unprofessional. It proves to them that you don't know what you're doing. They no longer look up to you. So yeah, physically being able to lead the crowd through your confidence is, I think, very important.
Mhm. I think it's interesting that you said something about that nervousness, your demeanor, because I do think there's a huge difference in a brand new instructor who has no idea what information they're presenting versus someone who's a little bit more seasoned. So I'm thinking, if I'm hearing right, your recommendation is making sure that that person practices the information prior to. Is there any other tactics a person who might be brand new at instructing and might be a little nervous can do to kind of help them through those early phases?
I mean, if you're asking me specifically, yeah, the instructor is going to have to take the time to read through this material, whether they come in before class or they read it over the weekend or the night before, something along those lines. So they're familiar with what is upcoming, and you're not changing pages, or you're not walking blind into something. I have a lecture about, I don't know, tires today. Well, what do I know about tires? So not only knowing what you have to do, but being able to fall back on that knowledge um, that you've acquired as a professional in the field. We have to have a minimum of 3 years in the field. Well, in those 3 years, you should have picked up lots of things to know about tires to present to the students.
What if I have a nervous breakdown when I get up there?
Then you're not cut out for the job, and we're going to have to hire somebody else.
Oh no.
I always go through and I make notes. So I'm not reading from the book, but I'm highlighting the information through the chapter. I don't like PowerPoint, so I don't use those, but I will go through and I'll make my notes, and I'll refer to the pictures in the book and highlight over that picture. So then that way if they read over the material, then they have an idea of what I'm talking about. And if they haven't, then I kind of give them stories so that makes them, interested about going back and reading over the material.
And I think that stories are important. Again, that you're drawing on your knowledge base from knowing what you're doing. Stories backfill, and I use this all the time. Stories backfill the lesson, because you're adding to, you're not just reading out of the book or off the PowerPoint.
I really think that probably will help somebody who's new, because if they're able to tell stories, that'll kind of just ease them in. They're going to feel a little bit more confident in that information versus JP, like you were saying, those PowerPoints. I think a lot of instructors are like, oh my gosh, they gave me a PowerPoint. I must read all the information on the PowerPoint. And it's like, yeah, read it, but like also tell me a story and, ask some questions and interject so that you don't look like you're a nervous wreck up there and then your students mob you because they might. They might. Does anybody have any final thoughts about nonverbal cues that maybe we didn't cover or you want to cover?
One time I recorded myself with a presentation and it was kind of interesting to watch how I present. Like if I say too much or okay, so that was interesting to do just to see what my students see. So I just set up a phone in the back of the classroom and recorded a small session just so I could go back and watch it. That helped me a lot.
I have the students do that for their mock interviews. They record themselves as if they're doing an elevator pitch. So then that way they can see how they look on camera if they have to do an interview on Zoom or something like that.
Yeah, I know probably a lot of people didn't like it, but I was like, when we went to, the virtual thing, I'm like, oh, I can watch back everything. I'm going to be a professional at presenting because I can see how many times I, roll my eyes or that, but now I'm pretty good at not doing anything. I'm just.
Yeah. I used to
poker face.
But that's why.
Because the bus is on its way.
Okay.
Adios.
All right.
Bye,
see you
Janet.
later. All right, Louie. I think we've gone through all the information. You know the drill. You are up for as soon as she logs. I'm not sure if she's logged off. I don't know what's going on here, but trying.
We'll just look at her this way.
Yeah, fair enough. Louie, we're looking for the next topic for the next round table. What you got for us?
I'll be honest, I'm on the spot. I don't have anything currently.
You better tag in a friend. Something. We need something.
I don't know. You guys have always picked these like just totally you had it all planned. I don't.
Nobody had it planned. I wouldn't. I'm not that nice.
Yeah, I'm at a loss at this moment.
Can we recap what we've done? We've done verbal or nonverbal communication, energy of the classroom, or state of the classroom.
State of the classroom, how to start a class session.
Keep a student-teacher relationship.
Oh, wow.
Wow. What about like how to hold yourself accountable in the classroom? I don't know.
Well,
that doesn't make sense.
I don't know if this is appropriate to say at the moment. Personal conduct in the classroom, is that a thing?
Yeah, that's a thing. That's
Yeah.
a thing. Look at that, Louie. You came up with one.
On the spot, even.
All right. Thank you guys for hanging out for another one of these, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody leave.